Dihydrogen monoxide, or DHMO, has been widely used in agriculture for many years. Its presence has been detected in rivers, lakes, and streams, including drinking supplies in places such as America, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, France, New Zealand, and many other countries around the world. DHMO is capable of accelerating the corrosion of certain metals, with it being a major component of acid rain. Outside of agricultural use, it's often used as an industrial coolant and is critical to the function of nuclear power plants. Colorless, odorless, and tasteless, human consumption of DHMO is inevitable, with the World Health Organization linking it to around 300,000 fatalities a year. You would think there would be calls to ban this dangerous substance, however, anyone who has even attempted to have DHMO banned or questioned its usage has been mocked and ridiculed by opponents and the public at large. And rightfully so, because dihydrogen monoxide is 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, H2O. It's nothing more than water. Let me know if my little creative writing project had you fooled, but in what I said, did I say anything that was untrue? Well, no, of course water's used in agriculture. It's what plants actually crave. You wouldn't have much of a river, lake, or drinking supply without water. It makes things rust quicker, and obviously it's going to be a major component of acid rain. It's rain. Water is often used as a coolant. It's critical to the function of a nuclear power plant, as water is heated, forming high pressure steam which drives a turbine generating electricity. While consuming water is inevitable as you need it to live, sadly, according to the World Health Organization, globally around 300,000 people do drown each year. And yes, as ridiculous as it seems, people have either supported the banning of water or questioned its use. This happening in New Zealand not once, but twice. In October of 2001, in response to a request for support to ban dihydrogen monoxide, Green MP Sue Kedgley's office said she was absolutely supportive of a ban on dihydrogen monoxide in New Zealand. In August of 2007, MP Jackie Dean would fall victim to the same hoax, sending a letter to Associate Health Minister Jim Anderton asking if the Expert Advisory Committee on Drugs had a view on banning the drug. Mr. Anderton's response being about as blunt as you can be in a situation like this. Dihydrogen monoxide hoaxes or scares are somewhat of an interesting phenomenon and are a perfect representation of what it means to blind someone with science. The Cambridge Dictionary defining this idiom as to confuse someone by using difficult or technical words to describe something. In this case, using chemical nomenclature to present water in a way that would be unfamiliar to the average person, causing confusion and in some cases, whether intentional or not, panic.
A person is smart, people are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
On the 1st of April 2013, Florida radio DJs Val St. John and Scott Fish decided to play a prank on their listeners, telling them that dihydrogen monoxide was coming out of the taps throughout the Fort Myers area. This resulted in residents contacting Lee County utilities concerned over the safety of their water. According to this USA Today article, one person struggling to try and figure out how to serve customers and prepare food without water. In the same article, Patty DiPiero of Lee County Utilities, when referring to the residents who had called the utility, said they heard that county water was unsafe and should not be used for drinking, showering, or for any use. In response to this situation, Lee County Utilities would release a statement saying that they are not having any issues with the water supply and the water is safe to use. The two DJs were taken off air before finishing their show and suspended indefinitely. And while that sounds harsh, their suspension only lasted a day, with them returning to air on the 3rd. The station spending the rest of the day apologizing, saying that it was indeed a hoax. General Manager Tony Render having this to say to NBC News.
This messes with the big three: food, water, and shelter. You can't mess with those, and we did.
And he's right, you are messing with something that people have to care about, which is one of the reasons as to why dihydrogen monoxide hoaxes are effective no matter what their format is. In 2016, a Facebook post began circulating warning people that dihydrogen monoxide was seen spilling out an industrial overflow pipe into the Waikato River south of Hamilton, New Zealand. Listen, I swear I'm not just trying to bully New Zealand here, as this is the 3rd time the country has been mentioned. I love you guys, but in all seriousness, this post did catch a few people out. The Waikato Regional Council making a post to reassure people that their water was safe, everything was fine, and it was just a hoax. Dihydrogen monoxide hoaxes, pranks, scares, whatever you want to call them, are largely all the same in the way that they occur. They're goofy and silly and they really shouldn't work, but they do. So why is that? Well, aside from the fact that again you are messing with something that people have to care about, I believe it largely comes down to 4 factors: scientific illiteracy, alarmist language, chemophobia, and the appeal to nature fallacy. I think a lot of people are interested in science. It's why content creators like Nile Red are able to gain a large following doing interesting chemical experiments, or why people like to listen to Milo Rossi talk about archaeological sites and debunk pseudoscience. However, when it comes to science, the vast majority of us don't know a whole lot. Yeah, we may remember an interesting fact from a high school biology class, see the odd thing online that we take note of, or look the occasional thing up because we heard about it, found it interesting and wanted to know more. In the grand scheme of things, that isn't much at all. This is what I mean when I say scientific illiteracy, and while I don't think you need a degree to be knowledgeable about a subject, we all have gaps in our knowledge, things we don't know, and it's these gaps that dihydrogen monoxide hoaxes and similar things play into, which is why they typically only work on a person once, or in some cases, not at all. In 2006, Executive Director of Louisville, Kentucky's Waterfront Park, David Karam, tried to deter bathers from cooling off in a public fountain, putting up a sign that read, "Danger, water contains high levels of hydrogen." This proved to be largely ineffective, as most people are aware that H2O is water. Of course there's hydrogen in it. However, if the sign had read, "Water contains high levels of oxidane," it's likely it would have been more effective. And yet oxidane is just another name for water. How we talk about things, both the tone and the words we choose to use, matters, with alarmist language seemingly being everywhere these days. From the media exaggerating negative news to create provocative headlines, to social media where the less I say about certain conspiracy theorists, the better. Alarmist language exaggerates the negative nature or potential dangers of a situation or thing and is used to make people emotional and reactionary rather than have them think about it. This being a deceptive yet albeit very effective way of getting people's attention. In Season 1, Episode 13 of Penn & Teller's Bullshit, actress Chris McGaha was sent to an environmentalist rally in order to collect signatures for a petition to ban dihydrogen monoxide, talking about it in a manner similar to how I did at the start of this video. This proved to be alarmingly effective, showing that a little bit of fear-mongering goes a long way.
Can I get you guys to sign a petition?
What for?
For banning dihydrogen monoxide. It causes excessive sweating, excessive urination, and it's in the grocery stores and in our babies' food and stuff like that. Styrofoam companies, nuclear companies. And now when they use it in pesticides, when we're washing our fruit and things like that, it's not coming out. It causes a lot of urination, vomiting.
Yeah, I'm
can even
familiar
cause...
with it.
Oh, okay.
Are you sure you're familiar with it? You're 100% positive. Look, no shade to this person here, but I can almost guarantee they have at least once in their life said, "I do my own research." And just as a side note, there's nothing wrong with doing your own research, however there's certain things you need to take into account. When it comes to sources, cross-checking is important. You really shouldn't get all your information from a single source. For instance, if my only source for this video was DHMO.org, a parody website, I'd be talking about water in a different way and look like a jackass for it. This is why source quality is also very important. You should be critical of and need to be critiquing your sources. And remember, just because someone on the internet said something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. People can make mistakes, people can misinterpret things going on to spread misinformation, and more importantly, people can lie.
You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
Yes. Occasionally I'll stumble across videos in which people are claiming perpetual motion to be real, being achievable with nothing more than rubber bands or springs. And I think to myself, maybe the Mayans were right, maybe the world did end in 2012 and reality as I see it is just my own personal hell. When it comes to people misleading others, I've shown this clip several times throughout the course of this video. They know what dihydrogen monoxide is, they were just trying to wind people up to see if anyone would sign their petition. The last two things on our chalkboard quite often go hand in hand, so we'll talk about them together. Chemophobia being the fear or aversion to chemicals and chemistry, and the appeal to nature fallacy, the idea that something is inherently good because it is natural or bad because it is unnatural or man-made. This obviously being a flawed way of thinking. Here's a list of naturally occurring things that are either harmful or potentially fatal to you, and that's without me cheating and putting things like sharks and snakes on there. Yet I'm sure we all know or have met a person who thinks like this. It's got chemicals in it. Yeah, newsflash mate, everything is made of chemicals. They're just the names we gave to things. Expand Expanding on this, when I say mercury sulfide, you probably imagine something rather toxic, perhaps a silver-looking liquid. After all, it's mercury. Mercury sulfide is in reality a naturally occurring red crystalline substance, and while it is true it can be hazardous, I wouldn't particularly advise eating it. However, it's been safely used as a pigment for decorative purposes and in jewelry for centuries, if not millennia, and is more commonly known as cinnabar. How chemical compounds are put together matters. I've seen this example used a lot, but it's a good one, so we're going to go with it. Sodium is an alkali metal that when it comes into contact with water forms sodium hydroxide, which is incredibly caustic, commonly being used as a drain cleaner, along with producing hydrogen gas, either bursting into flames or exploding. Chlorine as an element is a toxic gas that irritates the skin and eyes. If inhaled, it can cause fluid to build up in the lungs and was used as a weapon during World War I. And yet sodium chloride is nothing more than ordinary table salt. Chemistry is a truly fascinating subject. Things need oxygen to burn, and hydrogen is incredibly flammable, yet dihydrogen monoxide, H2O, water, can put a fire out. Physicist and chemist Marie Curie is quoted as having said, "Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less." While it was her quest for understanding that likely led to her passing, Marie Curie being the discoverer of the elements polonium and radium, both of which being highly radioactive, when we're presented with new information, it's important that we don't just react and that we take the time to understand just what it is we are being presented with. In the 1845 short story, The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, Edgar Allan Poe wrote, "Believe nothing you hear and only one half that you see." I doubt Edgar Allan Poe would have been able to envision the world we now live in. A world where AI is starting to blur the lines between fiction and reality like never before. And while it's important not to take his words too literally, you don't want to be the type of person sitting there basically saying, "I don't understand this, so it must be fake." It's also important we don't necessarily take everything we see at face value, otherwise you too might do something as silly as try to ban water. Hey everyone, thank you all so much for watching, and once again, a special thanks to our top patrons jballs902 and Joseph. DHMO scares, hoaxes, are something I've always found to be rather interesting, and hopefully you did too. They really are just people panicking over nothing. I remember reading MP Jackie Dean felt like a bit of a wally after she was told what DHMO was. It would be pretty easy to say that the people who fall for this are just stupid, but it really is just a fear response and they aren't thinking straight, and maybe that's something I could have put on the chalkboard. But as always, I have been Seda. Tune in next time when we talk about the Eiffel Tower, how it was designed to make you crave broccoli and why.